This is episode 73 of the Edtech Take Out from Grantwood AEA. My name is Jonathan Wiley, and I am joined, as always, by Mindy Carney.
Yeah, and almost, as always, Amber Bridge. Back again.
Back again.
Oh, that's New Kids on the Block.
Or Slim Shady.
Oh.
Or
Yeah.
Eminem.
Oh, it's a... Yeah.
I was thinking Slim Shady.
You were?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it New Kids on the Block, too?
I am a
take
big
that back.
New Kids on the Block fan, but I don't, I can't pull that in. That's
sorry,
more
my bad.
tough.
Yeah, you're right. I think you said it then. Anyway, wow.
Yeah.
Should we get started?
It's our third episode of 2019 and the second one that Amber Bridge has been on.
Yes.
So 2 out of 3 so far.
Yeah. It ain't bad. That's Meatloaf.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, maybe this should just become musical references into education.
We've done that kind of show. Remember when we did 80s lyrics at Edtech? You couldn't play because you didn't know how to play.
Correct.
Yeah. It was super fun, though. Okay. News and follow-up.
Yeah, we have some this week.
Yeah, you do, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
First one on the list then. Autocorrect now available for Google Docs on the web. How do you feel about that, Mindy?
I haven't seen it.
I don't
Have
think
you?
I've seen it yet either, but you know, basically it works the same as, or it should work the same as on a mobile device when you're typing, and then it will autocorrect the words for you.
Yeah.
I
Which
think,
is how it is in Gmail, and I really like it. I use it a ton.
I think Microsoft Word does it as well.
Oh, it does?
And Office Suite do it. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense that it's here, but yeah, autocorrect.
I find I use it the most like when I'm like signing off on an email, because I'm like starting like looking, and it's like forward to hearing from you soon. Reply.
No,
yes.
That's not autocorrect.
What is that?
That's
auto
suggest-
response.
Suggestion.
Autocorrect.
That's the Smart Compose.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
right.
kind of
That's
nice.
right. You're right. You're
That's
right.
what it is.
You're right.
Also new is Smart Compose in Google Docs.
I think my eye traveled down. I looked over these beforehand. Sorry, my bad.
I think this
Rain on
maybe
your
has
parade.
some interesting like literacy type conversations here, because now, you know, Google Docs is checking your spelling, it's checking your grammar, it's offering you suggestions to complete your sentences,
It owns you.
it's fixing your spelling mistakes automatically as you go. How do we feel about that?
I don't know.
How do we feel about that? Especially when kids are working on writing and stuff.
It's tricky.
I think it comes back to like, what are your objectives and what is it you're trying to get them to do it?
I know. I don't know how I feel about it. I know, like, when I was using iPads in the classroom and my little kids, like, it would autocorrect because they couldn't spell very well, and it would autocorrect and make, like, these complete nonsense. I mean, I would have had a better chance of, like, understanding what they were saying if it would have just left it the way it was, but it would autocorrect into, like, some crazy word,
Yes.
and I couldn't make any sense of what they were saying. And I was always like, gosh, autocorrect seems like it's a really great thing until you're like a first grader just trying to give it a shot.
My second grader at home will just sporadically sometimes send me a text message, and he uses the prediction on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So he'll write one word and then he'll just keep tapping the predicted text on the keyboard, and it's just some random sentence about, I went to the park and I saw a dog. And it's
That's
like,
awesome.
so yeah, we're getting into that territory.
Yeah.
Also on the list here, we've got refine search results in Gmail faster with search chips.
Yeah, you're super excited about this, huh?
I don't know if I'm super excited about it, but I thought it was an interesting name.
I feel like
search
you
chips.
use like 3 exclamation points when you send it out.
Okay.
I really like this.
I thought it was just-
exclamation point, exclamation point.
I thought it was just 2, but maybe it was 3.
3 really takes it to another
Yeah,
level.
it's a whole different level.
So let's say you are searching for an email from our boss, Stacy.
Yeah.
You'll get like little chips underneath, little tags where you can say includes an attachment or also includes Beth Swant's and you like filter through these types of things. And I think you can do a lot of that manually if you know the code and the
Advanced
syntax
search.
for that. Yeah.
The Boolean, right?
Yeah.
Always
So,
over my head.
yeah. So that's coming soon.
Nice, okay.
And last but not least, I'm a little nervous about this one. There's a new settings button inside of Google Sites where they're starting to move some of the features to. And I hope Google don't get too carried away with this and start loading it up with all the options like the old Google Sites had. Where you had,
it's going to start looking like old Google Sites
I know,
now.
that's why I'm nervous.
Should I be in menu or settings? Which thing should I be in?
So now if you want to go between like horizontal or vertical navigation, you have to jump into the settings menu. You've also got some like analytic stats and things in there, and some viewer tools, and I just think, part of the beauty of the new Google Sites is the simplicity, and I hope they remember that and keep that. So,
oh goodness, this old Google Sites sucked. So
yeah, so we can put links to that in the show notes, and people can see what appears in that little settings menu. But
isn't it this summer they go away? Old Google Sites
completely.
Oh,
I think so.
Breaking news? No,
well,
could be.
I feel like
I remember Google informant right here.
Yeah,
that was the email you all get that your Google Sites will go away, and it was in a summertime. I feel like
could be
summertime.
I don't ever use any of my old Google Sites. I feel like if you went in there now, you might get a notice saying, "Hey, summer's coming."
A naughty notice. Summer's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Winter's coming.
Right, so the opposite.
Winter's been here for a long time.
Kidding. All right, so served to you piping hot. Our main course today is making with Makey Makey, which is why Amber is here today too.
Yeah,
because she's all about the Makey Makey.
Love
Wakey,
it.
Wakey with the Makey Makey.
Makey, wakey. We'll talk about later, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, last episode we were looking for ideas from our listeners.
Yeah,
and we got one.
Yes, and so we're doing it. See how that.
This is how responsive we are to our listeners.
Super responsive.
So we're going to say thanks to Stella Pollard for the idea, and I think her idea was mainly to do with what can you actually do with a Makey Makey in the curriculum? Because I think that's where people get stuck sometimes. But we should probably just start at ground zero.
Agreed.
And say, what is a Makey Makey?
Yeah. So I always think of the Makey Makey as like a small extension of a keyboard.
Exactly.
So it allows you to have an up and a down, a left, a right, a click, a space, and then some other stuff on the back, which is all tied to letters. All of them? Are all
Keyboard
of them
letters? No,
not all of them.
Just that left side is
so
letters.
So what's on the right-hand side then?
The right-hand side are your clicks again, your right and your left click.
And right click.
And then you have your key out on the top.
I kept thinking output, but it's key out.
Yeah, key out on the top.
And so it's like a little circuit board that connects to a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook.
Correct.
Via a USB cable.
Yep, so you have to have a USB cable or port on your computer to use them.
And it just recognizes it like it's like you plugged in a keyboard.
Yeah.
Is what it thinks.
It'll even give you that prompt when it pops up like, hey, we identified your new keyboard.
And as we always say in our trainings, what does a Makey Makey look like?
It looks like a Nintendo controller.
Yeah.
Old school Nintendo controller.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, it does.
It looks exactly like it, except just flat. I mean, there's no buttons or anything, but yeah, that's exactly
what it looks like. Can you do the
like.
up, down, left, right, ABC combo thing?
Yeah, right. Super jump?
Yes. Special moves.
No. Yeah, so that's what the Makey Makey is. So if it's the same as if you're tapping the left hand or the up arrow, it would be the same as tapping the up arrow on your keyboard. Same effect.
Same effect.
Right.
But then you get into the idea of circuitry, right? And that's when you start to use tools that come with the Makey Makey, like the alligator clips, to plug into those holes to then get you further away from the Makey Makey. So the Makey Makey gets you out away from your computer.
Right.
And then the alligator clips get you out away from the Makey Makey into whatever you want to invent.
Yeah.
Right? It says an invention kit for everybody right in the box.
Invention kit for everyone.
How much do these Makey Makey kits cost?
$50. I think it's like $49.95 or something like that. We'll just round it up to $50.
And just for sake of clarity, in case people are looking at them, there's two types of Makey Makeys, isn't there?
Right. There are.
Could you explain the differences or not?
Sure. Vaguely, yes.
Yeah.
See, that's Amber.
You're looking at Amber for that one. I saw that.
So the one we've been describing is the Makey Makey Classic. And they also have the Makey Makey Go, which is more of a thumbnail kind of, or thumb drive, I should say, a thumb drive, that you plug right into your computer. And it only gives you one output, and you can control on it what that is going to be. So it could be when start is pressed, or it could be, I can't remember the other one is, if it's up, or it's like one other thing. It can toggle back and forth between one of those two starts, but you only get one output with it.
So does it still recognize that as a keyboard? So like
Yeah, same thing. So like when start or when space is pressed. Yep. Same idea. The one thing that's kind of interesting about the Go that we found is you don't actually need to have that earth plug-in with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
The other thing I think about the Makey Makey Go that kind of stinks is like I don't feel like the alligator clips like clip into that very well. Yeah. It's real touchy. Like it's not a solid piece of technology to.
It's got some sort of, you can feel a little bit of like a magnetic pull in there, but it doesn't hold it super tight in.
Yeah. I don't like it.
That's okay.
Okay. That's why I looked at Amber like, oh, you're going to describe it every time. I don't have very much success with it.
People get a lot real excited about the Go because it's half the price.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can do only half the things.
Not even. Less than half.
Yeah.
An eighth.
Okay. An eighth of the things.
Clear on that one, though.
But with the Makey Makey Classic, you can do so many things. And it's been really cool to see what people have created with it. It's one of the very first makerspace tools that we had that was related to technology, I felt like. I feel like it was Makey Makey, green screen, and maybe a couple spheros that we had that was really techie based. And we thought a lot of potential with it. So why we're really talking about it, besides Stella, is that that we are Makey Makey trainers. Right. We had Tom Heck visit us and give us a blessing, and now we've been running Makey Makey workshops for like the last 3 years, which has been a really cool experience.
Yeah, we counted up how many people we've come in touch with and have worked with, and it was like 120.
I want to say 130. Yeah.
Which so that was kind of fun to look back at our numbers.
To see that. Yeah.
So when you guys introduced the Makey Makey for the first time to these people, and you've shown them the device and explained what it is and how it works, kind of like we said, what's like a good activity to get people started on that? Like, so if teachers, somebody listening wanted to do it with their teachers and say, hey, we've got these Makey Makeys, let's try this, and where do we start? What's a good entryway?
Well, I would say even before we get the Makey Makeys out, we kind of reflect on our knowledge about circuits and our understanding of circuits and switches and those types of things.
Which also leads into the very first uncomfortable conversation that we have, right? Is that we say, think back to 8th grade science. And then they're all like super uncomfortable.
Everybody starts wiggling in their seat like, oh, we hate these people already.
Lady? And then Mindy's usually always really good about saying, at some point today, you're going to be uncomfortable.
Because I love it when people feel uncomfortable.
It's okay. Because we're going to get through it together.
One of our administrators at Grant Wood says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Which is right.
Bart says that.
Oh, he does. Huh?
So,
okay.
So
I think there is something about acknowledging the fact that everyone is going to feel uncomfortable because otherwise you think you're the only one who's uncomfortable. And that's uber uncomfortable, and I think makes you self-conscious. So it is kind of fun always to see everybody kind of look around, and then it's very obvious that everyone's very uncomfortable when we start talking about circuitry. So that's usually the first step, is kind of just reacquainting ourselves with our understanding of circuitry. And then with the Makey Makey, after we get it plugged in and kind of take a little tour around it, the first thing we do is the Makey Makey keyboard. And that just, I think, helps people kind of understand
piano keyboard.
Right, piano keyboard. Yep. So it's an online piano keyboard, and you have to hook up the Makey Makey so that all of your arrows are working as they should, and the space key and the click too. And then I think it kind of helps them see like, oh, this really is an extension of my keyboard. So when I tap this, it really is doing the same thing as my up arrow would on the keyboard. So that really is the first beginning step.
Yeah, because the keys on the keyboard are labeled like space, up arrow, down arrow.
Yes,
and it gives people those immediate feedbacks. They're like, this worked or this didn't, because I can hear that happen, and they can do it organically and just kind of fiddle around and figure it out. And then they're like super surprised, which is very fun. Or we do provide a lot of supports to say, hey, look at this, walk through some steps and make it happen.
Yeah.
And the last time I showed that to someone, I just want to say the music teachers loved it. They were playing White Stripes. They were doing all kinds of stuff, and we had the Play-Doh out because they hooked all the alligator clips to Play-Doh because we're talking about conductivity and stuff like that too.
Yeah, which is an interesting point too. Is that finding that Play-Doh is conductive, that water is conductive. I mean, they're even just with that, the piano part of it, it's fun to start then playing with, well, what things are conductive, and holding each other's hand and finding that as people we're conductive.
A human piano, like doing high fives and things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's why I think it's so fantastic, is because I can see that happening even with kindergartners, and having some exploration around what is conductive, what works, what doesn't work, sorting those things out, classifying them. And there's so many possibilities with Makey Makey, but I love that it comes so low that even our youngest kids can kind of mess with it.
It does that low floor, high ceiling bit that we love to talk about in our makerspace and creativity classes.
Right.
But it's joy too, right? Like there is a lot of laughing that happens, especially through that discovery. And I think that's the best part of it all. Like when you learn something new, you're like, aha, or you laugh. I have so many pictures of people laughing when they are holding hands and still making the Makey Makey work. Yeah. And adults, not kids. I'm talking about pictures of adults, heads thrown back, laughing. Yeah, right. And joy because it worked.
Yeah.
And so after that, you move on a little bit to doing like some pencil work. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And we get you encourage some of that artistic flair to come out a little bit more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's really just kind of goes back to what you mentioned about you start to play around with all the things that are conductive, right? And so then you're like, what else is conductive? Graphite is conductive. And so then we just start to something that is really accessible in the classroom. Anybody can draw with your pencil and connect your Makey Makey to it and start to make that artwork come alive.
Right. And I think what's interesting about that too is that then extends your circuitry understanding too, because a lot of times people draw one big picture and in fact it has to have different parts within that picture to make different things happen with sound. So it not only kind of makes you start to see some more integration ideas because it's about making art come alive, but also deepens your understanding of now how does circuits work and how does the earth fit into all of this as far as the ground, I should say. If you're not familiar with Makey Makey, ground maybe is.
Right. And they start to have some, where could I put this? Could I put it on my watch? Yeah. Could I put it on my ring? Could I put it on my earring?
Hands-free? Yeah.
How can I get hands-free with it? And that's when you start to get up and you get some good ideas really flowing.
And eventually we move on to Scratch. Would that be correct? So that's where people really start to get thinking harder about Makey Makeys, right?
Yeah.
I think the way that day flows, though, like we sneak it in. Yeah. Like
sneak attack.
We go slow, and then all of a sudden they're like writing their code, and some people have never coded before ever,
right?
And it doesn't seem like it's that big of a jump for them,
right? So what I would say too what's great about Scratch is that, before we're tied to just this online computer that's making sound with a keyboard. But our next step then into Scratch is just kind of remaining with sound, but getting to choose your own sound to make it work with your picture or whatever. So we stay with the sound, stay with still the front of the board, so that when we choose Scratch, we choose like when up arrow is pushed, make the dog sound instead, and there'll be a bark. Or even recording our own voice in Scratch. So it's just kind of an easy, smooth transition, I think, into that. Although there are some Makey Makey built-in blocks that you can add into Scratch too. And a lot of people like to go to that because they're just right there for them to pull right from.
Yeah, it was a really nice upgrade with Scratch 3.0. Right. So it's kind of newish. Right. You go down to the bottom on the left side, there's like a plus sign, and it takes you to a whole nother set of blocks that you can add into your Scratch coding area.
But you have to do that. It's not automatic.
It's not automatic, right?
But you only have to do it once.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I don't remember how to do that, but I know I have them.
Yeah, but it introduces some nice coding language and computer science stuff of teaching people about controls. We can control when these sounds happen through the Makey Makey and have that idea of these being a switch.
So some, I think, just really easy integration ideas is staying with an art piece of some sort and making that interactive, but having children's voice tied to their art or their project. And I think a lot of times people start thinking like, oh, we're already doing presentations. Well, now we're going to add our Makey Makey into this presentation, and the kids are going to add audio to their presentation to make it more interactive. So, and that applies anywhere, any content area, any grade level. That's an easy thing to add in.
Yeah, so that brings us on to that idea of, how we integrate the technology, how we make it part of the curriculum. So we've got things like circuits, which is an easy win for those individual classes that need it. We've got like some artwork with our pencil drawings and things, and maybe some music and things on there too.
Absolutely,
so what kind of other creative projects have you seen using Makey Makey? What's a good way to sell this and get it integrated there, along with those like computer science standards as well?
I think, as Mindy pointed out, whenever you're having students present on something, that's a really easy win. But I would also argue that whenever, and there's a lot of standards both in science and in math and in social studies that want students to make models of things. And so having them make a model, but then let's make that model come alive with your voice and with sound. It adds a whole new level to it. I've seen on the Instructables page, there's a talking cell on there. I think that's a very common activity that people do where they make a cell of the body. And now when we touch different parts of the cell, we're sharing the knowledge that they've gained from that.
So students are recording their own voice to talk about what that individual part of the cell is and just playing that through Scratch. Okay, cool.
And we've seen too, there is, I think this is on Instructables too, Amber, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but that there are these tiny museums. So there's like a template, I think, for you to make your own tiny museum. And so you just have this little bit of space to create and show something. What I think is cool about a tiny museum is that you as a teacher might only have 1 or 2 Makey Makeys in your classroom. And so I think a tiny museum is a nice way to make one Makey Makey go further. So if you allow each tiny museum to have one command, so maybe with my tiny museum, I get the up arrow. And so I can make whatever I want to happen as long as it's connected to the up arrow. But Amber gets the down arrow, and she can make whatever she wants to happen with the down arrow, so that between the two of us, we've used one Makey Makey, one computer. We're going to have to collaborate a little bit on our time and figure out some workflow things there. But even her and I could be like, well, I'm going to tell the beginning of this story. So it could be different scenes of a story. I'm going to tell the beginning of the story. Amber's going to tell the middle. And then the person who is viewing this would just walk right down the tiny museums and have the story retold to them. I love that tiny museum. That's like one of my favorite things, because people are always like, well, I only have one Makey Makey.
It totally brings that to life in a whole new way. And that's something that we've tried to have conversations with some of the people that have gone through our trainings about. Because when you come to one of our trainings, you get a Makey Makey, but you just have one.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, you just have one. You may not have any more back at your school. And so how could I actually bring this into a classroom and do work? And I think it's fun to think about that very limited restraint or constraint in your classroom. But you can do it.
Yeah.
You can totally do it.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes that constraint encourages more creativity than you might ordinarily have.
And then I would say, like, the biggest thing I think, or the biggest impact that we've seen with the teachers that we work with, is that they're really, I think, going more the route where they want their students just to create something. And so we talk a lot about design thinking and creating something with a certain person in mind or a certain problem to solve. And that really, I think, is what a 21st century skill is. Those are our 4 C's coming to life. And so creating some sort of prototype or something, but making it interactive so that then they can present it to a group of students or colleagues and get feedback for it and really feel and live that experience a little bit, because I think those are the experiences that we're really hoping that kids excel at as they go to solve bigger problems.
Life skills, like you said. These are going to be things no matter what job you're going to be in. You're going to have to be part of that process. And we get into a lot of interesting conversations with like assistive technology that too. We share a clip of some students that actually make things for other students with physical disabilities. And I've seen several projects shared out that use a Makey Makey to help students with that. I just stumbled across a new one the other day where an occupational therapist was taking a hula hoop and putting different touch points on the hula hoop so that a student that can't hold things closely but would have like a wider grip could like do that as a controller for a game or to interact in different ways. Which is
ingenious,
right? Because it works with anything.
It works with anything.
It works with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember even at one of our workshops, we had one teacher created a lunch count machine where the students...
Or Mindy
created the lunch count machine. Okay, and that was, every time the students would come in, they would hit cold lunch or they would hit school lunch or something, and it would count on there too. So,
But I think the interesting thing about that is, as a teacher, I could create something in hopes that kids start to question how it works, so that they want to do the see inside. So
and you can unpack that a little bit and show how that works as a model.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorites when we think about counting that I saw out in the wild, I didn't expect to run into it, was when
you say out in the wild, like
the wild of Southeast Junior High, I guess. When we went to visit Chelsea Sims, and she set up a Makey Makey on the book return in the library, and so it was coded to count the number of returned books that come in each day, and they like had a monster face around the book, so it was like the monster was eating the books as it was coming in, which I thought was super clever.
Yeah, right.
I like it. Yeah.
So you can find some of these ideas, and I think we've mentioned it before, but Instructables now has a Makey Makey section within their site, and there is just a wealth of ideas. So if you're looking to get started, you can just like go shopping for ideas, and I wouldn't necessarily like say, hey, Instructables is where you want to live your life, of Makey Makey, but it is a great place to start because they're more like recipes, as I would say. So they tell you all of the things that you need. They tell you exactly what to do. There might be even like a link to the program in Scratch, things like that. So it's a great place to start or be inspired for new ideas. We have our own Grantwood AEA teachers that have added stuff that have like 600, 800 views that people are going to check some of those things out. So like Heath Mueller is one of them. He created like him and his students, I should say, created like a Makey Makey band. And the last I looked, it had 653 views, and people were liking it, and people were making it and adding comments. And it's just super exciting.
I'm just looking at Shauna's right now, and she created a student schedule with auditory clues, and hers has like 750 views and 5 likes. And that's really cool to know that they submitted it as part of a class that they took, like that our extension class, but that they have added this to the community and other people are getting inspired by it.
Right.
Which is awesome. I have to tell you guys about one that I saw just today, a new one on there that blew me away, because I think one of the hardest areas of SEL is PE. To use technology. And this was so cool. They basically took like a ton of rolls of tinfoil.
Okay.
And they made these giant, they think they used pool noodles and covered the pool noodles with tinfoil.
Okay.
And it was a collaborative game that there were different points around like a really large space.
Like a gym, Amber?
But it wasn't a gym. It was not a gym, but it could be a gym for sure. You had like a team of 3, and you had a few of these pool noodles to give you some extra space, but you had to get to these different points when a computer game told you to get to it.
Oh.
And so you could hold hands, you could hold these things to reach and to get to different spots quickly and move around. The video for it is awesome to see.
Did you tweet it today?
I did tweet it today.
Yeah.
And like there were kids like laying on the ground and like reaching back and going this way and that way. And I had never thought about it like that. And I'm like, we need to add that into our Makey Makey class somehow.
Well, what a great collaboration too, because realistically in gym, they're not going to that's not going to be a focus for them, is to create like the code for that. Yeah. But what a good collaboration with maybe like your media specialist, like, hey, because those might be hard things to connect. But if you talk to your media specialist, like, hey, why don't you guys design a game and we'll make it come to life in the gym somehow, and to do something, that's a really cool idea. I love that.
Yeah.
Good one.
So I did apply this past year to become a Makey Makey Ambassador, and I
you have to announce that. I forgot. You have to tell people.
I am a Makey Makey Ambassador.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was really cool. And I didn't honestly know what was going to come of it all. But I did. But one of the really cool and amazing things that I got to be a part of was they did a conference call or a Zoom call with all of the people, and there were people from all around the world that were in on this call. There was a woman from Iraq that was in my call. There was someone from England and
someone from Cedar Rapids,
someone from Iowa.
Yeah.
But it was cool to get face to face with those people and just kind of talk a little bit and to know that they are part of the community, because there's a lot of really amazing and creative things going on there. Yeah. And I think Makey Makey inspires so much that I feel really honored to be a part of it. Yeah. So.
And you have a really cute t-shirt.
And I have a super cute t-shirt now.
So
Thanks,
jealous.
Colleen.
Oh.
So I'd encourage people to apply to become a Makey Makey Ambassador if you get going with that. Yeah. It's awesome.
And where do people apply for that?
It opens up at different times of the year, and one of the components of applying for it is that you have to have submitted Instructables to the Instructable website. Okay. So again, we believe in sharing when you make things, and we want to encourage others to share when you make things too, to really start to feed back to the community.
Hashtag have fun making.
Hashtag have fun making.
Okay, up next, Tech Nuggets. Nuggets.
Oh, the nuggets today. It looks like a big basket of nuggets.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay,
you don't know?
You start.
All right, I'll start with a quick one because you know I have a fondness for the odd AR and app on here. Yeah. So the first one I hadn't really seen before, I don't think, and it was a company called Curiscope.
Okay.
And so they started off their life with something called the Virtual Tee. And you'll have seen things like this before, but it's kind of like an AR target printed onto a T-shirt.
Okay.
And when you put the T-shirt on, you hold the phone or the iPad over it, and you can see different parts of the body and things, which is interesting. So you're not buying the app. The app is free, but you buy the physical product. So it's almost kind of like an Osmo type of deal, isn't it? You know, where the apps are free, but you buy the products. So they're also coming out with one now called the Multiverse, and they are having posters of the planets in our solar system so that you can just put the posters up in your room and you scan the poster and it gives you like exploded views of the different planets with some facts and information. Cool. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting kind of spin on that AR type of thing. It's not a free service or a free app or anything, but if you deal with those types of things in your curriculum and in your classroom, I don't know. I think it'd be worth a look.
Yeah, right.
Kind of thing you can use again and again.
I know. Do you have to have the app?
Yes.
You have to have the app, yeah.
Yes.
I just think it would be super fun to although we could do this with the iJack app, probably.
Yeah.
We should do something with so people could scan our t-shirts.
Yeah,
and something
absolutely.
fun would happen.
We should, because
you
you
already
can
have
do
the
that to the logo.
Innovate one in there. Yeah, you can do it with the logo, and then whatever the logo, wherever you find that logo, it should pop in, right?
We would just have to figure out a way to work in the QR code, though. Like maybe put the QR code on our sleeve.
Sorry, hijacked your Curiscope.
No, that's fine. I was thinking about Amber's Makey Makey Ambassador t-shirt. We could do it with that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's super cute, apparently.
It is super cute.
It's a little baseball tee.
I wish I had one, Colleen. Okay, so you have to earn it, though. I get it. I have one I don't think I've mentioned before, and it's, me and Hattie, Visible Learning. So there is a website from Visible Learning called MetaX. As we work more with Hattie and instructional strategies, sometimes those instructional strategies seem a little vague. And the nice thing about MetaX is that if you click on it, you can search by different instructional strategies and get a somewhat of a definition. I wouldn't say all of them are fantastic, but if you're wondering what that instructional strategy means, you can click on and filter and kind of move stuff around to get a better understanding or maybe a little bit more clarity without digging into that huge white book. So you do have to sign up for an account when you get there. And I believe once I did that, I probably started receiving Corwin emails, which was fine with me. So you just kind of know you're kind of signing up for a mailing list as well. But it might be something that if you're looking at instructional strategies, you might want to also take a look at.
Did Hattie or Peter DeWitt show this when they came to Cedar Rapids? I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, I don't know that Peter actually showed it, but he did reference it, I think. Yeah, it was launched last summer at the Visible Learning Conference, so it's fairly new.
It's interesting to, like, you know, when you view influences by domain and you can drill down, and if you tap on student, you can see all the things that correlate to, you know, achievement in terms of what you can do with the students, as well as, you know, the effect size of that as well. And then you can do, like, what can the teacher do, and what about your curriculum and the way you teach, what about the school. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so my second tech nugget is one that I'm not exactly sure how to say here, but I'm just going to call it Vibby.
Yeah.
Mindy sent me an article today at my request, and buried somewhere in there were some links to some different tools, and I came across this one here called Vibby, which actually met a need that I had actually. So the basic idea of this is you paste a link to a video, and the video can be from YouTube, Facebook, Google Drive, Dropbox, Vimeo, Twitch, and some other places. So I love the diversity.
Like the guy that dances on Ellen?
No, it's the video streaming service for where the gamers go.
That's not where I am, but okay.
All right.
Got it. Okay.
So you paste a link to your video in there, and then you can choose which parts of the video you want to show for students. So maybe you want, you've seen things before where it will trim the beginning and end of a video, or it will start at a certain point. And then what it does is, you know, you can just select like portions of the video that you want to show. So maybe you want to show the first minute and a half, and then there's 5 minutes in the middle you want to show, and then there's like the last 2 minutes at the end. And you can just pick and choose which parts of the video you want to show, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think it meets a need, right? Because a lot of times we have people who I feel like I've gotten this request before, and I'm always like, well, you just take the same video and you put it into Google Slides, put that same video on 3 different slides and show the little snippets as you go. And I think, this makes it much simpler, but you wouldn't be able to add it into Google Slides that way.
No,
right?
you'd have to link to it from Google Slides, or you could
put
the
link. Which is still
link.
okay. The only reason we have it in Google Slides is so we can do some of that formatting stuff to it,
or you can put the link into Google Classroom or an LMS or things like that too.
Do they have to log in to view it?
They do not have to log in to view it, no. Okay. But there is the ability to add comments on each highlight that you post on there as a teacher. So you can say, you know, some description about what the part they're watching is.
Yeah. I'm really glad I sent you that article.
I'm really glad you did too. Supplying nuggets.
Makes you wonder if I even read it. Huh?
Sponsored by Mindy Carney. Yeah.
So I, as I'm having a harder time finding tech nuggets. So, I actually thought of something that Beth Swans and I, created last year for summer camp, because she just shared this again. And apparently it was much more popular when she shared it recently than it was when we shared it in the summer. People were more excited about it. And I was like, really? So I was like, maybe I'll share it and see if anybody else is out there. So an instructional strategy that we shared for classroom discussion is called the placemat strategy. And the way this strategy works is that it's kind of a little bit like the jigsaw method, but you have a small group of students of like 3 to 5, and they are all learning around one specific topic. So it might be reading text, it might be exploring a new concept or something like that. So what they have is like this big placemat in the middle, a paper placemat in the middle of their table that looks kind of like a frame. So if you imagine then each person is sitting on a side of the frame, and they write just on the side of that piece of paper. And that kind of is their understanding and their processing of whatever it is they're learning about. And then when they're finished, they all kind of share about their learning. And then in the middle of this frame is where they kind of come up with this summarization of their understanding. And then they get to share that out with the group.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's, not a new instructional strategy. However, what I find with some of those instructional strategies is that sometimes they can be very time consuming. And so if you have that on a piece of paper, it never leaves the classroom, or it never allows students to process it. And if we don't digitize it, I'm not saying that a digital tool is required for this, but if you're looking to digitally either allowing students who might have a hard time with handwriting, who would prefer to type, who need just a different way to communicate, that's where our digital tool comes in. So I have linked in the show notes digital template for students to do the same placemat activity. And then all of those placemats would be in one slide deck so that students could have access to the thoughts of the other groups, because otherwise just on paper, you might never see, or like I have to visually process things. I don't verbally process things very well. So if someone were to explain their thoughts, it wouldn't work for me. I'd have to go in and look at it. So this is just a different way to kind of share the thoughts of your small groups that might make it more accessible to the whole class. So.
And if nothing else, you've got all those huge, big pieces of paper you have to do something with, and you feel bad if you throw them away. And now you've got a permanent record of that digitally too.
Well, and those placemats can become notes for later. If you're studying or you need to review something, they're with you instead of, in a dumpster somewhere. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I have one more bonus tech nugget. Normally we just do 2 each, but this will be a very short one, which is why I threw it in there.
Sure.
I'd been exploring Google Tasks a little bit, actually, with my...
Why? What?
Well, if you really want to know...
I do want to know. What are you using Google Tasks for?
I'm not using Google Tasks. Okay. I've been exploring Google Tasks. Oh. I was asked recently to help out at my daughter's Girl Scout meeting and to show them calendar and keep and tasks and this kind of thing. So I was looking into that and I thought, well, I guess Google Tasks could work for me, but it would annoy me that it only lives in that tiny little sliver of a sidebar. I need something bigger or larger to access and see all my tasks and organize my tasks. So I came across a Google Chrome extension called Full Screen for Google Tasks. Huh. And you just click on the extension and it opens up all your tasks in a new tab and it's full screen and you can have it on there. And it syncs with your phone, it syncs with the web, it syncs everywhere. So it's just a full screen view of your Google Tasks.
Interesting.
But Google Tasks is like going away probably, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
It's been around for a long time.
Do you think that's why Google Keep came into the picture? They're going to sunset Google Tasks? We've had this talk.
I think Google Keep is more complex for some people.
Oh.
And the Google Task is easy. You just write it down. It's a checklist and, Do you
remember to turn on that calendar, right? Doesn't it have a calendar too? Tasks do?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, right.
Reminders.
Mm-hmm. No.
Tasks.
It's your task calendar. And then there's a reminders calendar
Google
too.
Keep is reminders calendar.
Right?
Yes.
What's our confidence behind that?
I'm pretty confident.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure you are. Okay. All right. Good one. Say it again. What's the name of it?
Full Screen Tasks.
Google Tasks extension. Is that found not only in Chrome, but also in Firefox?
No. Only found in Chrome.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't use Google Tasks, so it doesn't bother me. I'm just putting it out there for someone that might be using it. So,
all right. Good idea. Thanks for sharing that wonderful nugget. You got a nugget, Amber?
Sure, I do.
Okay.
I would keep an eye out on our own hashtag.
Yes.
Because we are going to be lighting it up in March.
I'm going to get more than you bargained for.
Because we are declaring it Maker March.
Because we can.
Why not? It'll be fun. I mean, this episode is about Makey Makey. So if you like those kind of things, keep an eye on our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
On the Facebook.
And I would say YouTube as well. We're going to be sharing out some new and different things every single day in March.
Yeah.
Including a new Maker book talk that's going to be coming out to share and combine literacy and making.
I can't wait to see
it. A new Maker book talk?
Yes.
I'm intrigued.
4 episodes? How many episodes are there?
I think there's, however many weeks there are in March, that's how many there are.
I think there's 4.
Last I checked.
Yeah. Yep. Can't wait. Yeah, so hashtag have fun making.
Hashtag have fun making. Hashtag Maker March as well.
Yes, and at DLGWAA as you would follow the podcast too. So,
All right. Well, thanks again to Stella Pollard for suggesting this episode. If you have a suggestion for a future episode.
Clearly, we're taking them.
Clearly, we're pretty desperate.
Yes, and very responsive.
Very responsive.
Well, we have ideas for the next couple, but beyond that, we're open to suggestions for sure.
For sure.
So before we go, thanks to Amber Bridge again for joining us.
Anytime, guys.
Where could people find you online?
Oh, that's very personal, but
can they find you online?
Yes, you can find me at A Bridge Smith, mostly in the places: Twitter, Instagram,
social media influencer,
the social media places.
A Bridge Smith.
Mindy's Team Carney.
Yep.
I am at Jonathan Wiley.
Yep.
So until next time.
This has been the Edtech Take Out. We hope it hit the spot.
For more information on today's episode, please visit dlgwaea.org/podcast.